All right, it's so great to be here with you all today. Many of you know me and my mom from nomorechrones.com. We've been making SCD food for the past 17 years since I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease and started the diet. We started our website 11 years ago to help others with the diet. Good news travels fast, and after I recovered on the SCD, my mom had been sending packets of information by mail to anyone we knew who wanted information for a loved one. This had gone on for a number of years, and the list of those who had received a packet had gotten quite lengthy. One day when I was pregnant with my first son, and we were discussing the surprise my doctor had at my healthy pregnancy, we talked about how we wished more people could know about the SCD. This conversation gave us the idea of starting a website. The website has grown and changed over the years as we continue to add more information, recipes, and downloadable publications to it. We're passionate about spreading the hopeful news of the SCD and love connecting with others and hearing stories of success on the diet. Ever since I started the diet in 2001, I've only met just a handful of people in person who are following the diet. So this conference is really a milestone event. And it's been really wonderful to meet you guys and actually get to talk to you in person. And we're really thankful to everyone who worked so hard to make this conference happen. So thank you for that. The fact that we are all here today and that the diet has come this far is a great testimony to the wonderful online community that we have. For our session, my mom and I will split up our talks. So I'll do the first half and she'll do the second half. We'll each share from our own experience with menu planning. And then my mom will also talk about how to take a regular recipe that's not SCD and develop it into an SCD-friendly one. The SCD has truly given me freedom to live a full, active life. When I was first diagnosed and read Breaking the Vicious Cycle, I realized that I had a choice. I could either spend lots of time in the hospital or lots of time in the kitchen. So of course I happily chose the kitchen route, and I've not once regretted it. That choice opened up my life and my opportunities. I no longer had to worry about what I might eat that could land me back in the hospital. I was able to look at all of the wonderful SCD foods and realize that I could eat them and stay well, and that was very freeing. After being on the diet for just about a month, I was looking and feeling very healthy, and at my 6-week post-diagnosis doctor's appointment, my doctor was surprised at my weight gain and my healthy appearance. I was able to get off of all my medications pretty shortly after, and as long as I've stayed on the SCD, I've had no symptoms and no hospital stays. Since then, I've been able to do many things, including graduate from college, intern at the White House, marry my husband Jim, have 3 very healthy pregnancies, and maintain an active lifestyle, which includes homeschooling my sons and running the website with my mom. I would not trade any of these people or experiences for anything, and I'm just so thankful for the SCD. I think that working to make the wonderful, healthy, delicious food that I can eat on the SCD is a great trade-off for the life of pain, strong medications, and surgeries that I was anticipating when I was first diagnosed with Crohn's. It does take some significant commitment and planning to follow the SCD, as I'm sure you all know. Do you know this quote about managing kids? It goes like this: if you don't have a plan for your kids, they'll have a plan for you. I think this concept really applies to my food as well. So it really helps my mindset to think of it this way. Let's see. I got the wrong one here. Okay. If I don't have a plan for my food, my hunger or cravings will have a plan for me. And that can very easily lead to eating non-SCD food and regretting the symptoms. Chaos quickly takes over without a plan. So I really work hard to have recipes in mind for every occasion so that I'm prepared to stick to the diet at all times. Today I want to cover some ideas about common situations that I plan for. This includes creating weekly menus, planning for busy days and busy seasons, travel, camping, family reunions, and large group gatherings. Now I just want to mention here that going forward in the talk, you can just assume that all foods I'm talking about are SCD legal. I won't always say legal in front of it because I know you're already familiar with what's SCD legal and what isn't. My philosophy on SCD food is simple. It needs to be easy and delicious. Recipes should be easy to make, and in most cases they should be easy to freeze and thaw. SCD food should taste just as good as non-SCD food. I don't mess around with complicated, time-consuming recipes. I figure that just because I'm on a special diet doesn't mean that I have to make recipes that are difficult. For example, one time I was looking online for a coconut milk ice cream recipe, and I came across one that looked good except that it called for dates to be soaked overnight, and there was no way I was going to do that one. So I just changed the recipe so the dates were food processed with the other ingredients, and it came out great. So when trying new recipes, I look for ones that are quick and straightforward. I really like to have some kitchen shortcuts up my sleeve. This cuts down time in the kitchen so I can have more time enjoying other things. So here are a few shortcuts that I've learned along the way. Whenever possible, I make a double or triple batch. I might make a double batch of almond bread to freeze and take out one piece at a time to go alongside main dishes, or I might make 80 meatballs and freeze them in batches of 20 for 4 separate meals. I make crock-pot meals on really busy days. If I'm really short on time, I can pull some frozen chicken drumsticks out of the freezer in the morning, pour honey and mustard over the top with some onions and carrots. Or I can pull out a pot roast from the freezer, throw it in the crock pot, salt and pepper it, and add some carrots and onions. So if I have some time in the morning, a crock pot meal is an easy way to get dinner on the table that evening. I also like to have some frozen food ready for when we're sick or some unexpected event comes up. For example, I might pull out some frozen pre-cooked meatballs with frozen peas and cauliflower rice to warm up for myself. And I also keep frozen meat on hand for my family for these unexpected occasions. So a bag of fish sticks or chicken nuggets is always in my freezer for my family just in case. And then I just add some of the vegetables or fruit that I'm having to go along with their meal as well. In rare cases when I don't see any time in the week ahead to shop, I've used a grocery delivery or pickup service. Walmart has a great option to order online groceries, and then after you order, you have a pickup window of time. You go to the parking lot and a worker brings your food out for you. In some states, Walmart is also starting to offer home delivery. Whole Foods is now delivering to homes through Amazon, and Sprouts has recently introduced a home delivery service for a flat yearly rate. When I'm running low on time to make yogurt, I'll sometimes use almond milk in my smoothies instead of yogurt, and that cuts down on my yogurt making needs. And occasionally I'll order pre-made SCD food online. Having items like applesauce, beet chips, or nutrition bars in my cupboard can really save some time in the kitchen. Yogurt making shortcuts are really helpful. I have 2 yogurt makers, so I can make a gallon of yogurt at a time. And sometimes I use a water bath to cool the milk down faster in the sink so I can introduce the yogurt starter to the milk more quickly. We also have 2 crock pots and 2 griddles. When I need to make an extra large batch of something to freeze for later, it might be like taco meat or pancakes or easy sandwich bread that's on our website, I pull one of the extras out of storage to speed up my cooking. And a cooking day can be a really helpful thing for making food to refrigerate or freeze for later. If I can spend a few hours prepping yogurt, almond bread, soup, and vegetables, I'm way ahead of the game down the road. Even just quickly chopping up meat for the week's meals when I get home from the store is a big help when it comes time to get dinner ready that week. Having a regular menu planning schedule helps keep me on track. It also makes a big difference in the quality and variety of the meals that I end up making my family. I usually set aside Thursday night for menu planning because the next day is when my boys are at Friday school, and then I can really concentrate on shopping. If you can find a quiet time in your schedule to really think hard about what you will want to eat for the coming week, then definitely seize that opportunity. Fridays are usually my shopping days at Sprouts. I look for items that they specialize in, like additive-free meat, fruits and vegetables, and items that only Sprouts carries, like the Liberated Specialty Foods pizza crusts or Knutson's Just Juice. On Saturdays, my husband often helps by going shopping at Costco for things like milk to make yogurt, cheese, frozen fruit, eggs, fresh fruit, honey, nuts, vanilla, and almond flour. In fact, the prices at Costco are so much better for these bulk items that just the savings on honey alone more than pays for the membership fee. And about once a month, we shop at Trader Joe's for nuts, dried fruit, and other items. I also do occasional online shopping for SCD vitamins, almond flour, or SCD prepared foods. When I'm planning for a week, I have several binders of SCD recipes that I have compiled, along with a few SCD cookbooks. I have sticky notes, as you can see on my picture, for all of my favorite recipes, so I can quickly flip through and make recipe choices for the week. In fact, I probably have about 20 favorite recipes that I rotate into our menus that my family and I are very happy to eat regularly. I might branch out every week or two and try something new that we might like it enough to add it to the rotation. Many of my favorite recipes come from our I Want to Thrive downloadable magazines from our website. Also on our website, we have a lot of free recipes that we offer, and also from my mom's Flavor First cookbook. Once I have my notebooks and cookbooks in front of me, I make a list of all the days of the week on a piece of paper and a grocery list behind that. I flip through and find recipes that might have some of the same ingredients. So for example, if two recipes both use cabbage, I don't have to waste any cabbage by only using half, so I'll plan on making both of those recipes. Or if there are two recipes that call for a fresh herb that I have to get at the store, then I'll try to schedule both of those for the same week. I also consider what we're doing each day of the week ahead. If we have an appointment in the afternoon, I might make a crock pot meal that day. So that I don't forget to get the meal in the crock pot, when I'm making my menu plan, I'll set a reminder on my phone's calendar to get the meal into the crock pot that morning. And that's really helpful to me. Let's see, if I want to plan a break one night, I'll either schedule something frozen or we'll go out to a restaurant where I can eat. On Saturdays and Sundays, I try to give myself a break from cooking by having a day that we have leftovers, letting everyone choose and make their own food, or making something easy like grilled cheese sandwiches and fruit for everyone. As I write the dinner plan down for each day, I consider whether it's well-rounded. Does it need more fruits or vegetables or more protein? If so, I'll add a side dish to include those. And then thinking about others in my family, will they want bread or rice with their meal? I'll add that as a side. I might make cauliflower rice and add that to my meal if they're having regular rice. Or I might take a piece of easy sandwich bread out of the freezer and toast it for me while they get regular bread. So as I plan each meal, I flip through my binders or cookbooks for that recipe. I check ingredients, and if I don't already have one, then I'll write it on the shopping list. This whole process usually only takes about 15 minutes or so, but the difference it makes in the quality of food and variety of meals we eat is so significant, not to mention the lower stress levels that I have when dinner time rolls around. I plan to start making dinner at about 5 o'clock on weekdays. I often have activities like homework or chores planned for my boys to keep them occupied during that all-important hour, or they also might help me make dinner or set the table. This is a picture of my son Wyatt, who especially loves to help make cornbread for the rest of the family. I think that if a child is on the SCD, this would be a great time to include them so that they can begin to own the diet for themselves. We all have busy seasons. How we approach the menu planning can make such a difference in the stress levels during those times. So for example, if guests are coming to stay and I know I have a food plan for each day that they're going to be there, then that really helps me out. I can relax and enjoy the time with them more and feel like I'm on top of things. When things are especially busy, I grab one of our weekly menu plans and head to the store. A few years ago when I started homeschooling, I got to the point where I was really stressed at the amount of tasks in my day. Menu planning kind of got put on the back burner, but this only stressed me out more. So I put together 4 rotating menu plans with shopping lists that I could choose from on any given week. This was really a game changer. Seeing how the menu plans worked for me, my mom and I put together 24 menu plans that we could offer on the website. We actually wanted to give each of you a menu plan, one of the weekly menu plans here at the conference, so we'll be passing those out for you probably after this talk. And I hope that you benefit from them as much as I do. It's great to have 24 menus to choose from now. They definitely save me time on the thinking and planning end of things. When I'm going shopping, I'll quickly choose one, print it out, and take it with me to the store. Usually in the parking lot, I quickly scan the grocery list, cross off items we already have, and then head in to buy the items that we need. Once I've brought the groceries home, I look at the dates on the meat and then figure out which day of the week that will work best for which meal, and then write that day on our menu plan. When things are going to be busy for longer than a week, I like to make some things ahead of time to freeze for that time period. SCD meatballs, cooked chicken breasts, easy sandwich bread, terrific chili, and SCD focaccia bread are some of the favorites to make ahead. A recipe for pulled pork shoulder cooked in 2 crock pots is on my blog, and I almost always have that in the freezer to use, usually about once a week for a taco night. One batch can last for up to 3 months. I find that a cooking day usually works best for making a bunch of these foods to freeze. I sometimes refer to my mom's booklets called Have a Cooking Day and Now and Later. There are recipes for things like meatballs, chicken breasts, and taco meat, and recipes to use them in, which is really helpful. Camping and travel can be a challenge. I have failed several times to prepare well and paid for it. Probably the hardest camping trip I've been on was when I thought it would be a good opportunity to diet. So I only brought the basics. I didn't have any treats for myself and was hungry most of the time, while everyone else was enjoying their s'mores and other fun foods. The longer I've had experience with camping and travel, the better my system has become. It seems there is almost always something I can change for next time, so I'm usually tweaking things on the next trip to just make it a little bit easier. I've found that it really makes things a lot easier if I already have supplies ready to go and have pat meals that I always use for these kinds of situations. We take a lot of road trips to visit family, so I like to have a special cooler bag already outfitted with items like plastic silverware, paper plates, bowls, cups, a can opener, and a knife. Then when it's time to pack, I just grab that bag, add my food to it, and also a large cooler, and then I'm ready to go pretty quickly. For camping, we have a similar system in place, but only with bins, so we can just take those out, add perishable items, and go. I also like to have a few standard recipes that travel well. Peanut butter cookies from my blog are a favorite. So that they travel well, I crisp them up at a low temperature for 1 to 2 hours in the oven. Other cookie recipes could also be crisped up this way for travel by using this method. SCD yogurt, honey, and nuts is always a good filler. Raisins are a nice quick fruit. Canned chicken is helpful if I can't find enough protein along the way. And there are certain fruits and vegetables that travel well because they aren't easily damaged by moving around and they're not too messy. So I like to bring things like baby carrots, grapes, or apples. Homemade granola with honey and almond milk is so yummy and easy to throw together. And fruit leather makes a quick, fast fruit. For camping, there are a couple of recipes that my family loves and are easy to make around the campfire. I like self-assembled meals because I can have my SCD food for everyone and then they just add their foods that they want to it. So one of them is a foil packet meal that can be warmed up over the campfire. Everyone assembles what they want in them, choosing between pre-cooked and seasoned ground meat that I make ahead of time before we go, grated cheddar cheese or jack cheese, canned olives, pre-browned onions, etc. And then I just bring along some jarred gravy and quick rice that they can add to theirs. Another favorite self-assembled meal is called Polynesian pailan. Choices for that one include canned pineapple, canned chicken, grated cheese, chopped onions, celery, sliced almonds, and shredded coconut. A gravy of SCD yogurt with SCD curry powder mix and pineapple is nice to have on top. And then the others can add the gravy and the quick rice and the chow mein noodles to the top. For breakfast while camping, I usually alternate between just a few meals. I'll choose either eggs with bacon and fruit, or yogurt, honey, and nuts, and homemade granola with honey and almond milk. If I'm attending a large group event, I've found that it can be tricky to have enough to eat, as I'm sure you all know. I plan for maybe a 25 to 50% chance that there'll be something I can have, so I always have some backup food to supplement. Sometimes someone might serve fresh fruit or vegetables or cheese that I could have, and then I just add my own food to it. So if I can bring a main dish to share, that's always a good way to make sure I'll get enough. If someone insists on cooking for me, then I work with them to make sure they know the specifications of what I need. And then I always double check too before I eat it. Another thing I've done is to point them to an online SCD recipe that they could make. But if I'm hosting a large group event, like if I'm hosting it, or the family reunion, it's much easier to make sure that I get enough of the right food. These large group events are a great place to pull out some of the recipes I may not often make for myself because they're like a larger recipe, or maybe they have more varied ingredients that make it harder to make, and it just doesn't seem worth it to make it for myself. So I'll pull those out for one of those big gatherings. Finding yummy recipes that you notice everyone seems to like, whether they're on the SCD or not, is the key to a crowd-pleasing menu. Again, one of our favorites is Polynesian pailan. People love to choose what they want to put on their plate. Taco salad is something that we always make when visiting my husband's family. My husband usually cooks and seasons the meat, and then we help chop up tomatoes, lettuce, olives, and grate cheese for it. And then everyone else can have Fritos on the side. Terrific turkey chili from our website is always a winner. Cheese makes a great topping, and if you want a Hawaiian flair to it, you can offer it served on rice or cauliflower rice for yourself. Appetizers are a great option to bring to a group gathering. My favorite go-to appetizer is bacon-wrapped dates. My mom actually served these at our wedding dinner, and they were a big hit. There's a recipe in one of our weekly menus called chili cheese squares, and that's a great appetizer. A fruit and cheese plate is also a good option, as is a veggie tray with SCD dip. Deviled eggs are yummy, and a bowl of unsalted nuts would be great. And if you're really in a pinch, you could always stop at a grocery store on the way and pick up a fresh fruit or vegetable tray. Last but certainly not least, I wanted to point out that because our lives are filled with mostly average days, it's always a good idea to have some quick and average meals in mind. I make these a lot mostly for breakfast or lunch. For me, these easier meals include good old yogurt and honey with nuts and fruit, grilled cheese sandwiches made with easy sandwich bread, fruit smoothies, and scrambled eggs with cheese and vegetables. These kinds of quick and easy meals see me through times of indecision, exhaustion, or busyness. Having them to fall back on is important. An SCD meal doesn't have to be complicated or difficult to be acceptable for everyday life. If you need inspiration, I post pictures of many of my meals on Instagram under No More Crohn's, and I'd love to share more ideas with you there. And then, of course, you can always check out our many free recipes, tips, and ideas on No More Crohn's. So if you can have pat recipes in mind for each kind of occasion, the great thing is that you don't have to think too hard. It becomes like a script that you can pull out and follow whenever you need to. Having a plan for your food will make a huge difference in your success on the diet. It is really important to make sure that you're prepared for any type of occasion so you can resist cravings and satisfy your hunger with SCD options. But at the same time, I just want to encourage you that this menu planning know-how takes time and experience. So if you don't have this already figured out and all set up, that's okay. Just keep going with what you're doing, what you know, keep learning, and before too long, you'll be able to look back and see all the progress that you've made. My mom, Robin, will speak next about menus and recipe development. My mom has been an inspiration and a wonderful support person to me over the years through different seasons of life. She's been making delicious food for our family and church events for many years, since well before she started tackling SCD recipes for me. Her eye for beauty, her hospitable nature, and her ability to find and develop great recipes make her a valuable asset to the SCD community. Thank you.
Oh, it's good to be here and see you all. I can see most all of you. There we go, yeah. And it's been fun to meet you. And like she said, we haven't really met that many people who are actually on the diet, so it's so fun to be here. And we're also having a girls' trip because me and Erin, I live in California, she lives in Colorado, and another one of our daughters, my daughter is Heidi, she lives in Texas. So we kind of all converged here, and it's very fun. Let's see here, let me get organized here. We really appreciate what's going on and what this conference means. To us, it means that the diet is just going to explode from here. Everybody, the networking that's happening and all the work that's been done on this is going to make a huge difference for the diet. We're so happy because Erin and I, our goal has always been to help make the SCD be an option so that when a person goes out of the GI doctor's office, they at least have found out about the diet in case they're the kind of person who's willing to do a diet. A lot of people would if they just knew. And so that's what we're so excited about. Yeah. I guess if I have a philosophy on recipes and cooking, it's that food needs to taste good. Don't you think so? It really also, in my mind, should also look good. And of course, it should be good for you. So there's so many varieties of food that we can eat on the SCD. I mean, succulent meats and fish. There's beautiful fruits and vegetables, various legumes, crunchy nuts, sweet honey from different regions that has slightly different tastes, healthy oils and nourishing dairy items. What's not to love about those? So much can be done with all these ingredients, and my philosophy is let's see how far we can go with all this stuff and make good food out of it, not feel limited. I also think that meals shouldn't be crazy difficult to make. I don't think that instant food is the way to go, that's what we're striving for. It is nice to go in the kitchen and fuss around and measure things and mix and just kind of have that cozy experience of cooking. But I think most people, most of the time, want, good food pretty fast. Don't you? Yeah. my own experience has proven to me that we eat better with more variety and save more money when I have a plan. Back in the day, I used to get all stressed out about 4 o'clock. It's like, it's almost dinner time. What are we going to have? And, then I'd think of things and, oh, nuts, we're missing that ingredient. Oh, gosh, what are we going to get? And then we'd just have some old thing again, something that this was before the diet, but I'd have some ground beef I would thaw really quick, and tomato sauce, and something boring. So I broke out of the rut and started looking at cookbooks and magazines and planning out my meals for a couple weeks ahead. And then I would do the shopping from a good list, so I actually had everything I needed. And then immediately our menus got a lot better and more interesting. So when Erin started following the SCD, I just kind of stayed in that same flow and was able to keep making food for the family, just changing recipes and menus a little bit so that everybody could still keep eating basically the same thing, or mostly, and I was just inspired to just keep making normal, yummy, attractive food that would now work for the SCD. So in the process, I've collected a lot of those recipes. If I'd make something good, I'd take a picture of it and put it on a document so that, and then put it onto the website so it would be there for Erin and for anybody who wanted to look at it. So that's been kind of one of my projects. I'd like to give you a few thoughts on developing new recipes or taking your old recipes and making them work. When you're on a special diet, it just feels good to continue eating a bunch of the same or similar things, and it's not really hard if you think outside the box a little bit. Find inspiration for recipes by updating things you already like. For example, I already love tabbouleh salad. I realized that most all the ingredients are legal except for the bulgur wheat. Well, that's kind of neutral tasting anyway, so I tried swapping in lightly cooked cauliflower rice, and it was great. You have to rework things a little bit, like I put in less of the oil lemon juice dressing because bulgur wheat is really absorbent, but cauliflower is not absorbent, so you make little changes like that. And then I like to also make a yummy tzatziki sauce to go with it, which is so good. And you just do that by mixing SCD yogurt, salt, sliced green onions, and a bunch of cumin to taste. And that is a delicious salad. For inspiration, you can also experiment on recipes you think you might like. You can look through magazines and cookbooks and find things that totally work or are kind of close, and then give them a try, making needed changes. In this case, I love crab cakes or fish cakes, and one time when I was at Erin's house, she had some legal canned salmon, so I looked up online some various fish cake recipes and saw that it wouldn't be that hard to change them to sub in almond flour for the regular flour, since the flour was just to kind of add bulk. Oh, okay, is that better? So the flour was just there to add bulk, so it could be, anything. So I tried that, and it was a winner of a recipe. We loved that. I mean, most of our family doesn't usually like to eat fish, but this was a good one. And we still love those. Now, the other day, for my husband and I made a main dish dip that could have been reworked to fit the SCD. I was kind of thinking it might. It included 3 things, though, that would need changing. One was it would need legal navy beans instead of the other beans that were in there. It would need cream cheese. It called for cream cheese. And then another thing it called for was sweet Italian sausage. Okay, so it's not that hard to do the beans. Most people have some beans that have been soaked and cooked and in the freezer already in a quart-sized bag. But the cream cheese would be a little bit harder. The yogurt, you'd have to use a bunch of your precious yogurt and drip it overnight till it's nice and thick. Then you would have had to stir in some salt and a little bit of honey to take away the sourness. So, and then the sausage isn't too hard either. You would just use additive-free ground pork and sausage seasonings, and we even have a recipe for sausage seasoning on our website. So, but all combined, it was just too much work. If I put that recipe in a cookbook, everybody just turned the page like, oh, I'm looking for something easier than that. So that recipe would be a loser in my book. But for you, if you would love this dip, it could be done, and that's how you can tweak things. So now this is cherry apricot snack cake. It's from our Flavorful cookbook. It's really a good recipe. I started this with a basic SCD cake recipe that you can find out there, and then I tried adding things that might taste good. It was fresh fruit season when I was working on this, so I tried dicing up a bunch of apricots and fresh cherries. It turned out great. After that was a winner, I was thinking that both those fruits have a very short season, and so I thought, let's try making it with dried apricots, dried SCD legal apricots, and dried cherries year round. So I tried the same cake, substituting those items, and it was great. It was just a little more firm, which, you know, wasn't a drawback in my mind. In my own mind, I think that SCD desserts should be sweet. They should taste like dessert and not like health food. So in this recipe, I also upped the honey a little bit just to make sure it actually tasted sweet. Because my husband has a sweet tooth, so I can always, he tastes it with a kind of suspicious, like, is this SCD? I go, yeah, but you're really gonna like it. It's sweet enough. So anyway, that was a great cake. Okay, eggs in a nest. Aren't they cute? We have this recipe in our Flavorful cookbook. I got the inspiration for this recipe when I saw Pioneer Woman, Ree Drummond. Do any of you watch her on the Food Network? She was making these on her show. And the recipe is also in her Year of Holidays cookbook. She made these using grated baked potatoes. And I was thinking, I wonder if that'd work with like cooked carrots or baked butternut squash. So it wasn't long till I baked some butternut squash, let it cool, get nice and cold, grated it. I didn't cook it super, I wanted it to have some firmness to it, so you grate it. And I grated it, and then I made those babies, and it worked. The flavors are really good, and the little individual egg servings are also pretty. And it would be nice to put like on a buffet that you're gonna make for yourself and everyone else. No one's gonna object to those. Sloppy Joes. Sloppy Joes are an old favorite of ours, and I grew up eating this meat mixture ladled over hamburger buns. They even had these in the school cafeteria back in the day. Sloppy Joe mixture is great over rice or cauliflower rice too. And I was able to update this tasty comfort food by updating the sauce. Sloppy Joes normally call for a small bottle of ketchup, so it was pretty easy to substitute legal tomato juice and the spices that go in ketchup, which I figured out by Googling ketchup recipes. Honey easily stands in for the brown sugar, and everything else is the same. After adding tomato juice and honey, it needs to simmer longer from the original recipe to thicken up the sauce, since it's a lot more liquidy. But, it's okay. You can go do something else while that happens. And before you know it, you've got a yummy, hearty main dish that's delicious, spooned over cauliflower rice or toasted hamburger buns for the non-SCDers. Summer vegetable cauliflower couscous is a delicious Mediterranean-flavored side dish that will round out a great meal and also makes a hearty vegetarian main dish. This recipe was inspired by a recipe in Ina Garten's Make It Ahead cookbook. To make it work, I had to change the recipe by taking out the couscous, which is a pasta, and its liquid, but I kept the things that give it substance and flavor to the recipe. I also took out the can of chickpeas, which I didn't add legal beans back in, but you could if you wanted to add more protein or bulk. I added 1 head of cauliflower, grated or riced. Lots of stores are starting to sell riced cauliflowers. Do you guys get that now? Yeah, good. So that makes it even easier. I had to rethink the recipe because they had you cook the couscous first, but since cauliflower rice needs just a couple minutes of cooking, I changed it so you cook the other veggies first, then add the cauliflower at the last minute. because cauliflower can get really mushy, and it's no good, you know, you just, big mistake. If you're changing the ingredients in a recipe like that, sometimes you need to be prepared to change the instructions. So you kind of need to read through it with a little bit of intelligence to say, okay, will this work if I do it this way? Or do I need to change that? So usually when I'm doing a recipe like that, I'll write the changes on my little, you know, I've kind of written out a recipe or whatever, and then I, you know, just cross things out and make little notes to help me as I'm going through the recipe that I'm working on. All the diced up vegetables, raisins, diced dates, toasted nuts, and spices remain the same as the original recipe, and so it makes a delicious dish. It's a hit, and we love the Mediterranean flavors, which really lend themselves to the SCD. And now I'd like to talk together about how you decide which SCD recipes to make. There are lots of SCD recipes out there, which is good, right? But what do you look for, and how do you decide between this recipe or that recipe? The first thing I look for about an SCD recipe is, does it have too many obscure ingredients? Those items are probably valid and would be fun to try later, but they might be expensive or hard to find. So I like to stick with normal ingredients for most recipes. For example, I've successfully substituted regular real butter for ghee, which is clarified butter. But we don't all, you know, most of us wouldn't normally ever have ghee on our shelf. And we might like to get some, and it does keep, so it's worth maybe getting, but can you still do it? Does it look like it might end up tasting like cardboard? Find recipes that look like they're going to be yummy because you like the things that are in it. Does it include combinations you already like? Does it look crunchy enough, sweet enough, interesting enough? Then give it a try and see how you like it. Is it unnecessarily difficult? I've noticed that people, especially starting on the SCD, often feel like they have to include every hard dietary feature they've ever heard of to make an SCD recipe really healthy. While people may choose to eat only grass-fed beef, only organic produce, only organic spices, no preservatives, exotic salt, or other difficult to find or more expensive items, you don't have to do that to be legal on the SCD. Just doing the SCD as presented in Elaine's book is very healthy. And later, when you're used to that, you might want to add other healthy choices if you decide to. Those are distinctives of other diets, and they're valid personal choices. And as we've heard from other speakers, they're valid. It's a valid thing to do. But just doing the SCD as it's written is already healthy, and probably healthier than most of us ever were eating before. But you're not required to do those things for a food to be SCD legal. So I feel free to use the regular version of those products if I want to when I'm trying a new recipe. Can I make it look appetizing and yummy? I like the food presentation and the plate to be pretty and to show the beauty and the colors of the food. When planning a meal, I like to think of how things will look together on the plate. So for example, if we're having cauliflower rice, I want the meat dish to have tomatoes or something interesting and not just be a plain old white chicken breast laying there next to that cauliflower rice. And I'll also plan to have a green vegetable or a colorful fruit salad. I want it to look like I want to eat that. Does it seem like normal food? It helps to work towards serving a normal menu, not weird, tasteless, odd diet foods. There are so many normal foods available on the SCD. Why not concentrate on them and just serve great regular food? When you make SCD baked goods, there are a few baking tips Erin and I have learned that we want to pass on, and we're not like great bakers, so I know you probably have some more, but we just thought of a few. The first one is recipes with more eggs or honey should bake at a little bit lower temperature. Baked items with more than usual eggs in them have a higher protein content, and so they can turn rubbery if they're cooked too hot. And also the higher sugar content in honey can mean that cakes or baked goods are more likely to caramelize quickly and burn, and so they should also be cooked at a little bit lower temperature. And I noticed some of the SCD recipes will say like cook it at 310 degrees or something. Maybe have you noticed that? And that's probably the reason for that. The second tip is if you're changing a recipe and replacing sugar with honey, swapping out a tablespoon or two of the almond flour for coconut flour will help absorb some of the extra moisture because coconut flour is super absorbent. The third tip is when you make SCD cookies, you can make them crunchier by doing this, and Erin alluded to this. Let the oven cool to 170 degrees after baking the cookies. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not catching up here with my slides. Let the oven cool down to 170 degrees and then rebake the cookies for an hour or two. She told me this, so I tried it. Trouble is, I have one of those, I live in an old house and I have one of those big old ovens, you know, and it doesn't, it cools slowly and it doesn't have a readout that shows what temperature, so I thought, oh, it's cool enough. And I tried it and they all just burned. It was really too bad. But if you have a normal modern oven that shows you the temperature, then this is a really great way to get your cookies. It totally crunches them up. And now I have a few ideas you can use when you're converting recipes. In this pumpkin pie, it might have a different crust and it might even use butternut squash, but I made sure and used just the same spices in the same amounts as our favorite family pumpkin pie, and it is yummy. So when you're converting a recipe, determine what makes it delicious and keep that. If you have to change too many of those factors, maybe you ought to just move on to another recipe. It's probably not going to be very good. Some traditions are a little bit silly, and one of ours is that we like the cranberry sauce to be can-shaped. Open both ends and out it goes. So I had fun making this by making a legal cranberry sauce with honey and then adding, you know, a good amount of gelatin and chilling it in a can. And traditional cranberry sauce for the Coxes. Why not? You know, it was Thanksgiving. We just love potato latkes in our family, and a lot of times we'll make a whole meal out of them. They're so yummy. And we just love them topped with applesauce and sour cream. There's just nothing better. So it was really satisfying to be able to make these latkes out of grated butternut squash, then top them with legal applesauce and a dollop of SCD yogurt. Oh my goodness, they're good. And carrot latkes and zucchini latkes are also good. They're kind of a little more tender, but they still have that good flavor and those crunchy fried edges that we love. Hummus is a flavorful dip, and you can easily make it yourself in the blender using navy beans, legal navy beans, instead of chickpeas or garbanzo beans, as we call them out in California. This recipe tops the hummus with a hearty garnish of Mediterranean spiced ground beef and is so good. We can make a meal out of it with purchased or homemade legal flatbread, cut up, artichokes, olives, vegetable dippers, and pita bread for the non-SCDers. This crock-pot taco soup is such a winner and is perfect to make on a busy day or to serve when you have company. The original recipe called for corn and canned diced tomatoes, but it didn't hurt the soup to leave out the corn, and I just replaced the canned tomatoes with legal tomato juice and about 2 cups of diced fresh tomatoes for every can that it was called for. You can still have a bowl of corn on the side for the non-SCDers if they want to add it back in after they serve themselves. If I'm making a new take on a favorite recipe, such as SCD almond flour waffles instead of regular ones, I like to add other legal things that will make it even better than normal and maintain the novelty of the item. For example, in this case, how fun to add big dollops of sweet berry butter, or choose from cinnamon butter, date nut butter, orange butter, or autumny spicy butter. Everyone will enjoy these delicious toppers, and the SCDer will be happy too. So to sum up with a few last thoughts, think normal. Don't get your shirt in too much of a knot. Just serve things that seem normal to you. This thinking will lower your stress levels and it'll help you be more relaxed with your cooking. Start with normal SCD legal food, then branch out slowly to more interesting legal ingredients to broaden your horizons. For example, maybe dates haven't been something you've eaten, but when you start including them, wow, they're a great addition. They're such a sweet snack. They're a good addition to fruit salads. They're a way to sweeten and thicken cake batter, kind of like brown sugar, and a gourmet appetizer, as Erin described, stuffed with an almond, wrapped in bacon, and baked. Yummy. Go ahead and push the limits of all the variety that you can eat on the SCD. Don't get stuck eating the same 8 things. Try to think of new ways to enjoy those ingredients. If there are some legal things that you can handle, that you can't handle right now, you can when you're more healed, maybe you can try them later. I remember when Erin first started the diet, at that time in her life, she did not like onions, but her taste changed as she got interested in trying everything that was legal, just to make sure she wasn't missing anything. Of course, now she does love onions and things. So we want to encourage you to feel free to enjoy all the fresh, healthy, clean, beautiful, and tasty food that you can eat on the SCD. Erin and I hope that our little talk has been helpful and hopeful, and that would make us happy. What we would like to do now, we just thought this would be kind of fun for the next, maybe let's say 6 minutes or so. We'll just, at our tables, we can just have a moment, a few minutes where we just talk among ourselves about one of these questions. How do you plan your menus? What do you like to eat that's easy? Where do you go for new recipe ideas? What do you want to change about your meals or your meal planning? It's probably something to talk about on those, right?